Thank you for tuning in once again to his Vine and Victory podcast. My name is Kurt Olson. I'm your host, coming to you on the afternoon of May 2nd, 2026. And my podcast is later this week for a multitude of reasons, chief of which is my daughter was done for the school year, academic year yesterday at Cedarville University. And my dear wife and I had to go down and get my daughter, and just some real hats off to my wife. We had one vehicle that we were using to bring her home, and it was a Honda CRV. And okay, so you have a general idea of the size of a vehicle. And my wife did a masterful job of packing um, the hatch and one side of the back seat for the three of us to travel back. And just hats off to her for that. But I want to start with there's three things here, and there's a bunch of things that are kind of playing out here. And for anyone who has been watching this podcast, you know that I have been following this Iran stuff intensely and have commented frequently on things related to it. And I'm waiting for certain things to happen before I come back. But I want to start with the White House Correspondents Association dinner. Now, the background is this: this is an annual event that happens typically in the spring, and the White House Correspondents' Dinner is basically for journalists, their significant others, and the political class in Washington, D.C. And they come together and they just, just kind of make jokes about one another at this event. And a week ago, when this happened, there was the president was there, the vice president was there, Marco Rubio was there. I do not know how many other members of the cabinet were there. And the first hint of a problem was from a text I started getting from a college friend. And he was watching C-SPAN, and he goes, Kurt has to know about this. And I was busy doing a lot of different things, and usually on a Saturday night, I'm kind of doing my last editing of my column and making sure I have my photos artwork for my column that I'm putting out on Sunday morning. So there were some things I was doing, and yeah, I was kind of following stuff that was going on, but I was totally in the dark on this. And then I switch over to X, and yeah, stuff is going on at the White House Correspondents Association dinner in Washington, D.C. And so I quickly kind of switch gears and try to get myself educated. And of course, at that point, CNN was telling people that the person that was well armed and whatnot was shot and killed on site. Um, and what we come to find out was the person was apprehended, not shot and killed. And what we also come to find out is there was a Secret Service officer who was shot by this guy and was in the hospital recovering. Um, and we didn't learn that until like some 48 hours or so, till after the fact. And but the gist of this story is this: the left wing in this country, the left wing in this country has a problem, and it's political violence. We have too many people on the left who believe the way to deal with people that they disagree with is, oh, I'm going to personally threaten them. I'm going to go to their house and whatever. I'm going to, and this is a growing phenomenon on the left in this country. Let's go down the list of some of them. Some of the names. This is not a complete list at all. The current Office of Budget and Management Director, Russ Vaught, um, he had threat of violence on him. Lee Zeldin, a couple summers ago when he was running for governor here in New York, he had a threat to him and his family. Um, Brett Kavanaugh, following the release of the early release of the Dobbs decision, he had a threat on him. Um, we've had multiple attempts on Donald Trump. We've had the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We've had multiple examples now of people on the left who, if someone is saying whatever and I disagree with that person, their response is, I need to take them out. Where in a civil society is that any kind of reality? This is un American. And frankly, I believe if our founding fathers were alive today, that's what they'd be calling it, un-American, because we are not a country where we resolve our problems by killing people we disagree with. And the problem is this, okay? We had a couple of Decembers ago, we had the United Healthcare CEO, and I forget the guy's name, but Luigi Mangione becomes famous as the guy who killed this American CEO in broad daylight on a street in New York City. And we are coming to find out through genuine research that there is a group of people in the millennial generation and a group of people in the Gen Z generation that believe that kind of a response is acceptable. It's un-American. And if we had a properly functioning media in this country, they would say that. And I don't care what the network is. And I don't care if they're a streaming service or if they're on cable or if they're on network television. If we had a properly functioning journalist class in this country, they would be calling this out and calling it what it is, un-American. And if we had a Democratic Party that cared one iota about their credibility as a political party, and people people not questioning them about, boy, there are times I'm really not a fan of the Republicans, but you know what? The Democrats scare me. That's pretty much the response the average American has now when it comes to the Democratic Party, because they have they've gone through the alphabet mafia on the cultural issues, and they stand in the wrong spot across the board. And if we had a properly functioning um, Democratic Party, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Bill Clinton, Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, people like that who've served in high positions among Democrats in the last 20 years, they would be calling this out and they'd be telling people to stop. But they don't. They don't. In fact, what we got this week from Barack Obama was when the Supreme Court issued a 6-3 decision against gerrymandering in Louisiana, a story I talked about just a few weeks ago. Barack Obama rushed to social media to criticize the Supreme Court, Yet, just a week ago, when it came to the gerrymandering in the state of Virginia that happened, and they were going to reduce the, what were the numbers? I think it was like 6-5 Democrats to Republicans, the congressional split in Virginia. They were going to move it to 10-1. And we now have some legal action that looks like it's going to come against that map that was approved by voters very narrowly. But that's what Barack Obama does. He should be calling out the stupidity that we see going on the left with political violence. And it doesn't happen. Um, I don't know where this ends, but it's not going to be anywhere good because Charlie Kirk died because of this. And I don't think these people are going to be satisfied until others die as well. Sadly. Sadly. Um, and speaking of Lee Zeldin, Lee Zeldin is the current EPA commissioner for or administrator for Trump 2. And Lee Zeldin was on Capitol Hill this week, giving multiple hearings on the Senate side, on the House side. And in the description to the podcast, I'm going to link a video, and it's not very long, but it is an exchange that he has with Democratic Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro from Connecticut. And as you can guess, Connecticut, New England, yeah, she's very left wing, and he has a masterful takedown of this congresswoman. And what we tend to get when members of the administration are in Capitol Hill is we get this little show for the cameras. It's this little dog and pony show that happens, and when it's a Democrat in power, the Republicans do it, and when a Republican's in power, the Democrats do it, and it becomes let's play to the cameras and get something that I can put out on social media and it will go viral, and it will get thousands of people watching it and all this other stuff. And Lee Zeldin had a masterful takedown of Democratic Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro. I'm going to leave that there. The last thing I want to mention here from this week is something that happened late in the week. Now, I believe this was either Wednesday during the day or Thursday. We come to find out that the nominee for Surgeon General was being withdrawn and he was naming someone new as someone who he was putting up for confirmation. Now, the person who was up for nomination is Casey Means. Okay, she became really popular in the latter stages of COVID and among the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Make America Healthy Again movement, with some of the things that she would say on these podcasts and interviews that she did with her brother. And this is a woman who went to Stanford but did not get a degree in medicine, and supposedly started a career in medicine and then got disillusioned with what was going on. But the harsh reality is this: Casey Means was using occultic beliefs with some of the stuff that she had. And this ranges from a shrine with candles and notes that she would leave for dead loved ones. Apparently, she also did some things related to the moon at night and talking trees, among other things. And apparently, this was information that was out there about her. And it was just one of the reasons why her nomination was being held up. And it finally died on the vine this week. And so Donald Trump has named Nicole Saphir as the new nominee for Surgeon General. And frankly, everything that I know, strong candidate in terms of a background in medicine. Yeah, she was a Fox News contributor for a lot of stuff related to health news. So what? Every TV network brings contributors on to address things in certain specialties, and obviously medicine would be one. But I hear a lot of good things about Nicole Saphir. But on Casey Means, this very sketchy past um, was one of the things that was causing her nomination to be held up. And I'm going to have a link in the podcast to something, some comments that were made by someone related to her. And this is the kind of thing that gets troublesome because we have people in this country, even among Christ followers, who just because Donald Trump says something or does something with a certain individual, oh, got to be supported, hook, line, and sinker. And we had some people in evangelical Christianity not question the nomination of Casey Means when there was all kinds of information sitting out there that would cause all kinds of red flags to anyone who was in the church, because occultic behavior like this, this is the kind of stuff that raises red flags in terms of spiritism and divination, as it was called in the Old Testament. And someone like that shouldn't be anywhere near public policy. And Christians should have the discernment to realize if this information is out there about this person, and if it becomes a situation where there's smoke, there's fire. Um, don't just sit there and support someone just because they happen to be nominated by the president of the United States. So those three things were going on this week. And again, there are some other things kind of sitting out there that I'm trying to let play out to see where they go. But we also had that Supreme Court decision by the Supreme Court this week on the voting rights issue case out of Louisiana, which I brought to people's attention just a couple weeks ago. And this is going to cause mass redistricting across the South. Mark my words, there's going to be mass redistricting across the South. And some of these states are going to be doing it swiftly so that they can get ahead of the current calendar for midterm elections. It will be interesting how all of that plays out in terms of not just timing, but if they can succeed in that. But it's going to be very interesting to see what the numbers look like in the midterm elections, especially in the House of Representatives. Um, you get two senators from each state, and they're elected statewide, so that doesn't matter. It's these members of Congress with these gerrymandered districts. Illinois is famous for it. Um, a variety of states are. I've seen some North Carolina districts that are bad, some in Maryland that are bad. So the court said on a 6-3 decision, the gerrymander. Now, they didn't strike down Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. They might be waiting for another very specific case to deal with that directly. But basically, they're like saying, if you're drawing a district to get a candidate of a certain race, you're doing this wrong. And we have a lot of blacks that have been voted in white, prominent white districts across this country. So you don't need to gerrymander a district just to get a candidate or just to get someone of a specific color to represent those people. Um, and that gets into a whole lot of other issues that involve character and the caliber of people that we're letting by who need a whole lot more scrutiny brought to them. But that's a totally separate podcast, and I will leave things right there. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. I have a new column dropping in the morning about something related to one of the U.S. Senate races. And until next time, God bless and goodbye.